Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jerry Catequista and welcome to this Excel tutorial. Today I'll walk you through how to build a progressive relational HR database using Microsoft Excel. If you're an HR student or you're preparing for HR analytics work later on, and this will really help you understand how Excel ties everything together from data, formulas, and insights. We'll go through lookups, conditional logic, date functions, text functions, pivot tables, charts, and a lot more. So let's get started. First, let's look at the dataset. We have two sheets, the departments and employees sheet. In the department sheet, we only have two fields, the department ID and the department name. Simple and clean. Now in the employees sheet, we have all the important HR details such as the employee ID, employee name, department ID, the position title, the date of hire, birth date, salary, manager ID, employment status, performance score, and the calculated field called the bonus eligibility. Now this setup already gives us a small relational database and it is perfect for practicing HR analytics. Let's start with one of the most classic HR Excel tasks. Fetch the department name from another table. Now I'm going to select cell 2 where we want the department name to appear. Now in this cell we would like to type equals if error open parenthesis VLOOKUP and C2, which is the department ID right next to it, and the range where we want to look up for the value. So we have to go to departments sheet, highlight it, and make it an absolute cell so it won't move when we drag it down later by clicking F4. After that, we have to indicate the column of the return value, which is in this case, we want these words to appear, so it's gonna be 2. And then after that, we have to indicate the exact match, false. So finishing up the if error function, because this is the VLOOKUP formula inside, and this one is the if error. So if error, the return value will be unknown depth. And now we have the human resources for department ID of 101. If we drag it down, it will give us the result of the different departments. Now, this formula looks at the different ID. This formula looks at the different department ID in column C. Now searches it for the departments table and pulls up the department name. And if the ID doesn't exist, the if error prevents Excel from shouting at us like error or NA, so instead it returns unknown department or unknown depth. It is very useful for HR cleaning. That's for department name. Next, let's get the manager name based on manager ID. For this, we have to make a reference table containing the manager ID and the names in the departments sheet. Going back in the employees sheet, in M2, or cell M2, we have to type if we have to reference the H2, which is the manager ID, equals quotation blank quotation comma quotation no manager comma if error VLOOKUP the H2 again. Next would be reference to the departments sheet, which include the manager ID and the manager name. We have to lock this. and then the return value, which are the names, so column 2, and exact match. So finishing the if error formula, it would indicate no manager. There. We drag this down, this will automatically indicate the manager names for each of the employees. So if the manager ID is blank, we immediately say no manager, just like this one. So I purposely place blank cells for demonstration purposes. And if filled, we look up the manager from the employees table itself. That is the purpose of the if error, and the VLOOKUP function. Now this is a good example of a self-referential lookup, which is very common in HRIS datasets. Now if you have heard people say, don't rely on VLOOKUP, that's so basic and old. Well then use index match. And this is what they are talking about. In N2, let's type equals index, open parentheses, reference it to the manager names, which is in the second column of this table. Don't forget to make it an absolute. Next, we will employ the match formula. And we have to match the manager ID, which is in this case, first is in H2. And after that, we have to reference it again to the manager ID column from the department's sheet. Make it absolute. And then we need the exact match, so it will be 0. And then if the formula is right, it shall reflect the same output as with the VLOOKUP on the left column. There. Now if we drag it down, you can notice that there are NAs. That is because the one on the left we included in the formula the condition to reflect no manager instead of NA, but in this case we did not, so it will reflect NA, but still it reflects the same output, the same name of the manager. So this is an alternative for the manager name. Next, let's compute for the bonus eligibility. Now the basic rule for this, let's say for example, if the performance score is greater than 85 and employment status is active, the employee gets a bonus. So it's gonna be a yes or no output. So how to do that? So in the cell K2, we have to type if, and we have to give a condition. J2, in this case, the performance score should be greater than 85. As well as the employment status, which is I2, should be equal to active. Like that. So if that is true, the value would be yes. If otherwise, it will be no. And there. If we drag this down, we can see which employee is eligible for the bonus or not. So this is a very HR-friendly formula, and you can also expand the rule later, like adding or conditions. Maybe employees with manager in their job title also get bonuses. Now let's compute age and tenure. These are very common in HR reporting. Let's start with age. In O2, I'll type equals if F2, which is the birth date, equals quotation, blank quotation, comma, quotation, blank quotation, dated if F2 again for the birth date, comma, today, formula, and Y for years. Now it will automatically compute the age of the employee based on the birthday. Now for tenure. In P2, we type equals if the date of hire equals quotation, dated if E2, then today, function, and then Y for years. We will use N so it will look like there is a continuous sentence. Another dated if E2, that would be another today function, and here this time months over years, so YM, and MOS, apostrophe MOS. So the output of this should look like the date but with words of years and months, like this one. If we drag this down, it will automatically compute the tenureship of the employee based on the date of hire. If you want to separate the month, day, and year, we can just use the formula month, then refer to the date of hire, and then that's it. Same goes with day and year. Use the day formula. It extracts the number of days. For month, it extracts the number of months. For day, it extracts the number of days. And for year, it extracts the year indicated on the date of hire. Now this shows exactly how long someone has been with the company. And these date calculations are extremely useful for HR compensation, promotion cycles, and even workforce planning. This time, let's combine employee name and position title. So there are two ways to do that. First is using the text join formula, and the other is using the concatenate. Let's start by using the text join formula. In T2, we will type equals text join formula quotation dash quotation and then true for ignoring empty cells. Then we want to refer the first one to be the employee name, and then the next one is the position title. So the expected outcome of this or output is first name dash the position. So it should look like this. If we drag it down, it will reflect the same format for the rest of the names of the employees. So what about the concatenate? Now concatenate, for me, in my opinion, it is more cleaner to do. Let's try to concatenate, and then we just have to indicate the first one, or the first to appear, comma. Next would be our dash, and then last would be the position. So it will reflect the same way. For me, concatenate is more simpler, but according to what I have researched, text join is more formal and it is more cleaner for them. Also, text join is described as more modern compared to concatenate, but they still give off the same output. So far, this is how the database looks like after all the formulas used earlier. Let's now create quick summaries. In the departments sheet, if I want to count the number of active employees per department, I will find them using the department ID. So in this cell, I will type countifs. I will refer to the employees table in the department ID representing each of the department where the employee belongs, and I will make this an absolute cell or lock it. Next, I'll have to go back and refer it to the departments table in the departments sheet, A2 in this case. I will freeze the column and leave the row as is, so it can just be dragged down later. After that, I'd have to refer it to the column of status of the employee, whether active, inactive, or probationary, because that's what we are looking for. Then we have to lock this as well, and then we have to set a condition if active, and it shall reflect total number of active employees per department. So in the human resources, it's 2. If we drag this down, since we did not lock the row, it will automatically switch to finance, marketing, and operations. Let's try. There. Now that is for checking the active employees per department. Let's talk about salaries per department. So in this case, I will use the formula SUMIFs. Now I'd have to refer it to the column where the salaries are located. In this case, it's in G column, G2 to G11, and in absolute cell. Next, I'd have to refer them to the department ID because this will be based on department. So the salaries per department. In absolute cell as well. Next, I'd have to get back again to the department sheet and then refer to the first row of the department ID, which is 101 for human resources, and then lock the column and leave the row as is, like that. And that's how to get the salaries per department. Of course, in total, we can just use the sum formula, like this one. And that's how to get the active employees per department and salaries per department. Count ifs and sum ifs are the backbone of HR dashboards, and if you are planning to work in HR analytics, you will use these all the time. Another creative way in finding or highlighting high salaries and top performance, aside from using if formula, is through conditional formatting. Now this will literally highlight the cells based on the condition you will set, and here's how to do it. First is to select the salary column, only these cells, and then we will click conditional formatting and set new rule. Now we have to click the formula. Let's say for example, those salaries that are above 50,000. So I'll have to select the first row of salary, which is G2. Let's remove the absolute number. G2 greater than 50,000. And let's use this format style. And then click done. Now this will highlight those that are set upon the condition, which is in this case greater than 50,000. So there are 4 employees that has a salary that is greater than 50,000. Now, for the performance score, let's do the same thing. Highlight, click conditional formatting, set new rule, click formula. For this time, since it's located in J2 equals J2, let's say our standard for performance is greater than 85. So J2 is greater than 85, and then we will use the green one as a format style. It should appear like this, meaning those employees highlighted with performance in green has achieved the condition set upon. And as you notice, I matched it with the bonus eligibility earlier, which is 85 as well. So those that are highlighted in green are also eligible to receive bonuses. Now let's make the sheet more professional using dropdowns. That is achieved by data validating the cells or columns. Among these columns, the department ID and manager ID have lists that can be data validated. But this time, I will also include the employment status column, in which we will not be using a list that is in the sheet. So first, let's do the department ID. Highlight the department ID rows in the column. Now, we will have to click data and then click data validation. Allow list and then find the source, which is in this case, the source is in the department's sheet from 101 to 104 with its corresponding department name. And then we will click apply. So this will allow the rows to have a drop down in which we can choose to. And this will also automate the rest. Like that one, the department name changes. Now we are going to do the same with the manager ID. Highlight, click data validation, allow list, and then let's look for the source at the departments. Manager ID. Then we will apply. That will give us a drop down. Still, I won't be placing a manager ID here because that is for the discussion purposes, so it will reflect in the manager name that there is no manager. Now, going to the employment status topic, as I mentioned earlier, it is not necessary that we need a list on the sheet for the data validation to be possible. Let's say, for example, if I highlight this column, I click data validation, I will still click list, but in the source, I can just type the list that I want for it to validate. Say for example, active, probationary, and inactive. Now this will allow the sheet to have a drop down of those three options. So the importance of data validation is to avoid typos, like for example, active without letter I, probationary without letter T, and the like. So it keeps the HR data clean and reliable. Now let's create a pivot table. This is where all the magic comes together. Now we have to highlight our current database by doing Ctrl A. Then after that, we click Insert and then click Pivot Table. After that, we click this existing sheet. Then we go to the departments sheet. We place it here, for example, A23. Now we click Insert. From this, we can create the pivot table and with the different fields from our database. Now let's try to see the salary and performance summary. So we have to put in the rows the department name. Next, we will place in the values the count of employee ID. As you can see, it states here that sum of employee ID, but we need the count. So what we're going to do is to click here to check the value field, and then click count, then OK. So it converts it into count. We will also include the sum of salary, which is here. Sum of salary, and last would be the average of performance score. So it says here that it's sum of performance score. So we will do the same. Click here, check the value field, select the average, and click OK. Now we must have this reflected on our pivot table. This is a full HR summary with headcount, total cost, and performance all by the department, namely finance, human resources, marketing, and operations. This is super useful for HR managers. Now let's do the pivot table once again, but this time we will turn it into a chart. Specifically, we will find the headcount by department. So in order to do that, we will have to look for the department name and put it on the rows. And then the employee name will be on the values. So this will give us the count of employee name, or basically it is equivalent to the count of employees per department. So the question here, how to make this into a chart? Well, we just need to highlight pivot table and then click Insert and then find the best charts you want. For example, let's try bar charts. Now this will give us a graphic design which is much easier to explain in presentations, and it is better for HR reports. So we can just change this chart title into headcount by department. Now this chart is based on this pivot table. If we are to change the content of the pivot table, let's see what happens. Let's say, for example, we want to understand the position titles of those employees. There. We can see the position titles on the column per department, totaling 10 individuals or 10 employees. Now it will also give us the idea how many people are occupying those positions. So in this case, one for each of the positions. So the title of this chart would be Positions Occupied. Per department. Pivot table is not only useful in determining headcount, but also it quickly summarizes salary data, analyzing employee turnover, reviewing performance ratings, comparing compensation across departments, evaluating recruitment effectiveness, and visualizing HR trends for informed decision making. You just have to manipulate your pivot table and your chart will automatically edit itself according to the data presented on your pivot table. And that's it! We built a complete HR relational database in Excel, used powerful formulas, leveraged pivot tables, added charts, and applied real HR logic along the way. If you're learning HR analytics or preparing for HR internship work, these skills will really help you stand out. Thank you for watching, and I hope this tutorial helped you understand how HR data flows inside Microsoft Excel.